it is easier said than done. As you know, SAARC has expanded so much its activities, and it cannot be the funds which we are getting from some one donor mainly. These are not enough even to run these initiatives which SAARC has taken. So I don't think it is possible, practically possible. The only thing I would suggest is that each chapter on its own should make some efforts to raise funds, and then have this endowment fund which the Secretary General has proposed. I think that can sustain the activities which we have launched. And lastly, well, Mr. Imtiaz Alam, the Secretary General, has said that this is my last address to the SAARC summit. I don't think that should be correct. Despite being the foremost critic of Imtiaz Alam, I still say he is the best known figure in the entire SAARC. And he will have to
I hate to interrupt you, but I deliberately inconceivable that we will let him go. So let's not raise the subject. Carry on.
A detailed brief. Then the practical decisions, we have not, this is a recommendation. We will have our regional executive body meetings of SAARC and SOM and SAMC, where we will be planning all these things. So let us leave the planning part there, but the connectivity in general and the overall theme which we are saying, like SAPMA's main demand vis-a-vis SAARC, let us discuss that. Then we'll, on the organization will come later. But my decision is final, backed by the Sri Lanka, our regional conference in Sri Lanka. That is my last scenario.
We don't have much time, but still we can talk about information and connectivity. Yes, madam?
Names are not important. Ladies are important. I am Tanzila Mazhar from Pakistan, and I just want to actually, who are presiding this session, just putting a suggestion in front of them and in front of everybody from South Asia. Once we know and have reached this conclusion that television is the strongest medium right now in all over the world, and rightly in South Asia as well, we have entered in information era. But we see, especially if I see at the television programming and content, we don't have on regular basis, there is no program of South Asian content. We do cover the live events like SAARC Summer, but we don't have any programs, such programs which can do better connectivity between the South Asian countries. Maybe we can have people from all over the South Asia on television programs in Pakistan, in India, in Sri Lanka, Nepal, on telephone or on with any medium. We have the facilities, but we need to actually ask the television editors or anybody who are the responsibility to go and make the content part of these programs. I think this can be on a regular basis rather than we meet after a year in any country of South Asia. I just want to, and another comment I would like to make, that whenever we come to these type of events, conferences, we do have literature about South Asia, but what is lacking in our educational system, I should say, that history is there, but strategic relationship right now, whatever is happening and whatever developments are going through right now, they are not included in our educational syllabus as well. I think that can be a suggestion as well for the people who are responsible to design the syllabus. Thank you.
SAPMA is supposed to be a think tank, really, and the points you raised are very valid. And if we don't have, you see the problem with the editors of television nowadays, they have to consult their marketing guys. And all, I don't know about Pakistan, but Indian television is completely driven by a market. So we have TRP problems, and editors don't have much say. And if the marketing people tell them that this is not going to fetch any advertisement or revenue, they will drop that. But I think some of the television centers which you don't have to worry about TRP and their finances are different, I think they can take up, and it is very valuable and very crucial information in South Asia, and that has to be done. Perhaps somebody, Mr. Nyal Singh, or will you take some and make comments to the lady what you were saying?
Problem always boils down to who is going to do it and how they are going to do it. And that's where it all falls down, because as you might have seen from the earlier declarations, even amongst the journalist section, SAARC, of course we blame the leaders, political leaders, for not giving effect to the declaration they make. But many of our declarations are not implemented. So we have to go into the reasons why they are not implemented, whether it is a fault of the chapters or whether it's a question of money, and funding is always a problem. I don't think we'll get very far by trying to raise our own funds. Try. So since we are dependent on external sources, and I don't see any prospect of that being different in the future, I think we have to budget accordingly, and we have to take its responsibility. I mean, there's this declaration I've just seen, which we're going to discuss later, but for instance, I don't see any point of talking about Siachen and nuclear weapon states at this time of the declaration, but that will come to later.
Thank you very much.
A few things to what the lady said. There are already some initiatives happening. The Asian Institute for Broadcast Development has set up something called the Global Center for Media Development, where they are creating a repository of development content from the region, and that would be basically shared. And it's not only programs but also raw materials which could be accessed, and programming could be done at affordable pricing. And the other option, of course, is also to set up an alternate television channel for the region, which could be financed not on a commercial basis but through development grants and other options.
Thank you. Very scared and shy.
As Mr. Nyal Singh
Women
said,
power, you see.
we will discuss the declaration later. But I have one point to raise, which is that why do we have a declaration every time prior to any discussion? If you feel that you have to give a declaration by the time when we are ready, then at least the draft of the declaration should be sent to us by email. You knew long ago who are coming to this forum. Sunday is a kind of thing, there's no use just going over the nitty-gritties of add an and here and or there.
Thank
You have framed a context.
You
You
have
have
made,
framed a context, and that context could have been framed in a different way. So I had objected in Fox's result to this kind of handling of the declaration, and I'm objecting again.
well, a declaration should be by consensus and a collective action, but perhaps let us not be too harsh on the. I think what they've done, they've worked very hard on
We
it.
don't know who have actually framed it.
Yeah. The thing is, we will have time to discuss the
Yes, I
declaration.
think there is
And
whole
all
day.
the suggestions will be taken up and incorporated. But it's a very valid point. Normally, it should be the last thing after all the meetings, then we can have declaration.
This time there is an improvement. This declaration has been distributed before it has been presented.
So we are moving forward.
Saying what Mr. Nyal Singh was saying as well, when I look at the draft resolution, we did say we would be discussing it a little later, but somehow to me the thing between this sounds almost like this could have been a declaration of SAARC. What we are as a media organization bringing to this, that somehow doesn't seem to be getting incorporated in this. We're making very general statements which are, it could have been a
I think
declaration
the
of SAARC,
declaration
but
should
when
come up
the
in the
secretary
next
just
session.
mentioned, like I did
Okay.
say.
Why are we'll take all these questions, respond to all these questions.
Okay. Uma,
The second
yeah,
bit,
sorry.
if I may just, as a representative of the South Asian women in media, I would like an addition, which I don't know whether one should talk
I
about
think
it.
you should remain,
please,
no,
let
it
us-
should be on the topic,
Yes, on the topic.
because it should be on Khalid Ahmed's keynote address. we should not discuss the next issue in this session. Why are you allowing that? Three Indian representatives have addressed this on this issue. Why?
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm not conscious about that. I'm just seeing who's raising hands. And anyway, you have, Mr. Raki, you have a point.
In the context of my being a representative of the South Asian women and environment to be incorporated in this entire debate, as we do recognize that women are the most vulnerable section who are going to be affected by climate change.
Uma, we will have a time for that separately. We wanted to have a discussion on Khalid's paper, which we have completely missed because I tried. I apologize, I failed. Have you got a question for connectivity
For
information?
Mr. Khaled,
You have?
yes.
Okay.
For his presentation, and I always enjoy his
Can you
presentation.
raise your voice a little bit?
Okay, my name is Shaukat, I am from Bangladesh. I want to congratulate Mr. Khaled for his presentation, and I always enjoy his intellectual mind. But one question arises in my mind, that is, we are talking about the connectivity among the South Asian nations through information. But do we have the national awareness about the connectivity? And what is done about the creating national awareness for this connectivity, let alone the national consensus? We see the government, head of the governments are taking measures for connectivity, but the people at large are not aware of this connectivity, or they are not aware of these things. And we saw some steps that bilateral relations are being eased, and the two governments are moving faster, two governments are moving very slow. But are these steps being supported by the people of those two countries? Because we need something to create awareness about the connectivity and let alone the national consensus.
Can I answer this?
Yes, and internet and other tools we have in our hand have actually overtaken the governments in many ways. The government's role is now as a facilitator, and that is where the SAARC countries, I think, are very slow. And Khalid, would you please elaborate?
At the outset, I must congratulate the organizer of the minister, and I'd like to thank them because I think at the outset, I would like to congratulate organizer, Bhutanese, especially the Bhutanese friends, for a beautiful arrangement. And I must go ahead that the Bhutan
Let us
is the
leave it
one
for the
country
concluding session.
that supported and recognized Bangladesh during our liberation. With this word, I have one or 2 points. That Mr. Khalid Sahib has mentioned regarding connectivity. I believe that we have a different political symbol. Still, SAARC facing facing crisis, the implementation level, same problem we are having in SAARC. But here I would like to mention one point, Mr. Khaled, whether he could give us some light on it. It's a reasonable we are trying to develop not only the relations, not only understanding, we are trying to develop our economy, our social structure, our political understanding. Each one the regional people should be different than others, should be much better off than today. But in the international market, international political sphere, we are competing each other. I don't know why, because when we are talking about the business between India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, a lot of problem comes to tariff and non-tariff area. But whether the country, regional country, can think of regional fiscal measure. We should also think of the monetary policy, because once a country declares the budget and declares the fiscal measure, the another country just their fiscal measure or monetary policy is totally different, which can at the point work together. So that's a very important point. Until and unless we can address this issue. It is also regarding the accounting and the legal system. It's very difficult to take a decision at a point where he feels that this fiscal measure will help Bangladesh, India, Sri Lanka, Nepal and others. Now we are talking about FTA between the two countries. We're giving an example. We are giving example that the Sri Lanka and India have been very successful. But I am told that a lot of researchers, it's not really that picture that's given by different researchers. So I would like to mention that definitely we should have an economic integration today or tomorrow. But to start with, we should not forget that we should start from the macro level. We always talk of the macro policy, but until now we address this issue the macro level, like monetary policy, fiscal policy, accounting system, legal barrier, whatever it is, it will be very difficult the political stage to implement the ideas and the project. Thank you very much.
Awareness. I think we have over the years become overly aware of conflict, and I think the biggest awareness that happened was 2008 after the Bombay attacks. This has been going on sporadically, but you will have noticed that elected governments have gathered on a regular basis.
Please,
Is this?
Please,
Okay. If you have elected governments, then you don't actually have to approach people again and again. People are disturbed when the media projects conflict. But some of the things that have to do with connectivity are not easily transmitted to the people. As you have noticed just now, the points raised by the President from Bangladesh, the Secretary from Bangladesh, you will immediately become aware of proceeded. They found that at the national level, a lot of homework had to be done. And finally, what has happened, now this is something that the ASEAN region is aware of, and yet they want to make progress. But I don't think SAARC is really aware of where you are going. Because if you are looking at a common market, and that's where prosperity lies, then you will have to confront the milestones that the European Union has confronted. And it is now stuck because of the horrible thing called referendum, where a common constitution is not being framed, but they are pushing for it. I think there is a momentum. Once you decide that you are going to give prosperity to people, avoid conflict, create a large market which will compete in the world, then you will have to confront all these steps that are in front of you. As the Secretary from Bangladesh gave us some of the points, these are the points you will have to tackle if you have smooth sailing in the creation of the market that you aspire to. But the journey will not come to an end there. I think ASEAN is aware of it, they are aware of it, that they will confront these limitations and milestones in the days to come, and yet they have decided very seriously that in 2015 they will complete integration. I think we are still in the middle of that journey, but that journey has to be undertaken.
Vijay Naik has been raising a hand off and on, and every time I give him chance, I see another rating, but we have to wait now this time. Yes, Vijay, and please be brief.
Yeah.
And
Talking as Imtiaz Alam was saying about the movement of journalists within the region of SAARC. Connectivity, same thing you see. We are talking Eastern connectivity actually, see. And we have been talking about this for the last about 4 to 5 years, and the idea of SAARC sticker that was there earlier, and which it was discussed I think simultaneously in 2 or 3 SAARC meetings also. But what happens that whenever the SAARC summits are held, this issue comes up, you see, and there it stops. In between, there is no activity on behalf of the various chapters to follow up the governments at the respective end, actually, to see that this becomes a practical, facility is given to the journalists, you see. And at that time, it was also decided that we should have about 50 journalists from the SAARC region, which should be selected, and they should be given the SAARC sticker. Recently, I only found that the journalists who came to India from Bangladesh, they only have this kind of facility has been given to the journalists in Bangladesh. But rest of the district countries do not have this facility. So I think we should concentrate on that so that connectivity will be more and the exchange of journalists would be more and there could be a kind of information exchange. That's my suggestion.
Imtiaz Alam is the best person to answer that. Yes, you're right that there is a point that in between nothing happens. Imtiaz?
And Suresh, I would suggest the discussion on the very important keynote address has just taken place. So we don't guillotine this debate now. Let us have some more discussion.
Our efforts have always preceded the SAARC summit. That we write letters to the foreign secretaries, the foreign ministers, then try to influence the director for SAARC or South Asia. We start this process, but now we are also exhausted because we know that they will not do it. Unless we, the SAARC summit is in a country where the government supports us very strongly, and the foreign minister, the foreign secretary, and the prime minister or the president takes it upstairs, if this has to be brought on the agenda, it cannot be done. So if, for example, SAARC summit is held next time in Pakistan, we do not know where, I can assure you that we can bring it on the agenda because of our relationship with them. Here in Nepal we had this facility, but and they tried as well. But in those days there was king, and so my issue is that we should go for again for lobby, and we should do lobby quite early, because the whole thing lies with the director South Asia, the competent authority, which the things he initiates then go to the level of secretaries, then foreign ministers, and the foreign ministers and the presidents do not have the time, then change any of it. This is the bureaucracy. And then some more lobbying in SAARC secretariats. I tell you one thing, I presented 13 books on SAARC, on the region, to Secretary General, who refused to have a photograph while presenting those books to him. And the first book published on SAARC was by SAARC. He was not even taking that book. Can you imagine?
I don't try to read.
So, lastly, that the sticker was approved, but sticker is confined to 3 cities. Why did they agree? Because sticker can be manipulated. They can ask you to leave in 2 days, they can ask you to confine to Delhi or Lahore and leave. That's why they are very intelligent bureaucrats. They will keep this authority with them. In Bangladesh they have given. In Afghanistan, our friends have got, some friends have got stickers. They did get stickers at some point of time. All of our SAPA chapters can get the stickers. In Pakistan, we discussed the matter.
What is the problem with other chapters?
Yes. In Pakistan, we talked to the foreign secretary and the secretary SAARC. They asked us to propose the criteria. Now there are 50 stickers. There are 5,000 journalists. If we propose 5,000 names, 4,950 will break my head, as you do without any reason many times. So they will have a good reason to break my head, to stone me to death.
No, there could be rotation also sometime.
No, there is no rotation kind of thing. So what we are now saying is finally, and I suggested to the Indian chapter as well, that the SAARC executive body should be given, all members of SAARC executive body should be given stickers, and rest the government information ministry decides, and let them get the stones. I tell you that they will increase when the journalists will throw stones.
I tell you, in Bangladesh, all diplomatic correspondents are getting the SAARC stickers. And SAARC is, SAPMA is getting only 12, 15.
No, around 18.
18. That's all. And it needs lobbying with the foreign ministry, foreign secretary, foreign minister. It's not that easy that director general will issue that.
I tried my best to focus the whole thing on Khalid's address, and my friend Afzal keeps on making barbs at me, and rightly so. But the thing is, we are now coming to the other session, but before we conclude, I would like to say one thing, that when SAARC was created, it was on taking an example of ASEAN, and they thought that ASEAN was a great success in that region, and they were hoping that in our region we will create something like that and prosperity will come to South Asia. But for various reasons, we all know the reasons, things are sometimes look very bright and sometimes very gloomy, and this is a roller coaster ride for SAARC and SAFMA, as he has just said, that we are not going anywhere. Now, well, thank you very much. Perhaps we should find some more time to discuss connectivity, because that's very crucial for this session, and we should not let go that opportunity. But this session has to end now, and I would like, thank you very much, members of the Presidium. You can carry on your coffee, carry your cups to your seats, because we are immediately going into the second session, and the members of the Presidium will change. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Keep sitting, please. Session is continuing. No 5 minutes break.
No break, just go back. Please, gentlemen of the Presidium, go back to your seats so that the other panel...
Ask for card. Call for card.
I am. Give me a chance here. Hold on. I will. The second session is also a very crucial and actually the main theme of our summit this year, and that was a threat looming large on South Asia. And unfortunately, we have been deprived of the person who was going to give us a keynote address. That was Mr. Hasnan, Dr. Syed Iqbal Hasnan, a friend of mine. Maybe he came to know that I was attending this, and I was always having a quarrel with him on his thesis. But I think the real reason is that maybe he missed his flight from America. But I will invite Waqar Mustafa to make some comments about the theme. And before he does that, I would like the members of the Presidium to come and take their seats. I'll make the names. That is Madam Bushra Sultana. Bushra Sultana. Come. General Secretary Song from Pakistan. Then we have Kumar Ketkar on the Presidium. He is the Vice President of SAFMA in India. Mr. Kumar Ketkar. You are being distracted by Vijay. Please come. Now we have President from Afghanistan. Farida. Dilafroz. I've got a very tough job here because the names are not there. I'm guessing who is there. Who is Miss Afroz? Yeah, please come. Okay. And
thank you.
Then
I'm a mother. I work in
Mizanur Rahman Shelly. President, Media Commission, Bangladesh. U.A. Najim, Media Commission, Sri Lanka. Then yours truly, I'm here. And Irushada Abdul Sattar from Maldives. And once the members, the panels have taken their seats, Please. Yeah.
Riyadh will.
Okay. Doesn't matter the. Mr. Riyazuddin Saab, who is the president of the region of SAARC, would you please come on the panel? And I hope, is anybody else missing here?
Let me sit here.
Sir, you sit wherever you want to sit. We can create something like elaborate like the Prime Minister of Bhutan. Waka, please come. Actually, let me tell you about Sayyid Iqbal Hasnan. Sayyid Iqbal Hasnan is, he carried out the study on the glaciers. And he was the one who set the alarm bell in the whole world that the glaciers are receding, and he actually predicted that the river Ganges, the most holy river in India, he said is going to dry up in the next 25 years. Unfortunately, there was a hue and cry about that thesis, and the Secretary General for Climate Change in the United Nations, R.K. Pachauri, was under fire from Western world, and they rubbished the whole theory of Hasnan, which is unfortunate. Yesterday, the Prime Minister of Bhutan was saying that when he flew over the Himalayas, he saw the change with his own eyes. And I think Hasnan's theory cannot be rubbish. It has to be taken seriously. And Waqar is going to throw some light on.
Good morning. Sayyid Iqbal Hasnan, who was on time in submitting his paper, and who had come all the way from the US to Delhi, unfortunately could not make it to the conference because of his illness. Some of the key points of his paper. The Himalayan glaciers are generally experiencing rapid and unprecedented rates of melting. The melting of the glaciers is caused not only by human-induced carbon dioxide, but also by growing levels of black carbon in the air, snow, and on glaciers. The compounding impacts of regional climate warming and monsoonal rainfall reductions are accelerating the melt of ice and reducing the accumulations of snow on these glaciers, leading to a significant loss of ice mass over large portions of the mountain regions. Therefore, there's a great need for more research on the glaciers and changes that are taking place in the region. The melting of the Himalayan glaciers is a phenomenon that clearly deserves greater study and closer monitoring, but the existing reality of glacialization is already having downstream impacts. The first and most obvious concern with glacialization is the threat of diminishing water flows to the hundreds of millions of the people in the downstream regions of India, Nepal, Pakistan, Bhutan, Afghanistan, Bangladesh, and China. The regional and microclimate changes are revealing themselves not only in the melting of glaciers and diminished sources of water to the major river systems, but also in the changes in monsoon patterns, variation in overall precipitation levels, increased occurrence of extreme weather events. Transboundary agreements in the region do exist, and fortunately, survived cross-border tensions and mistrust. The countries in the region are facing a wide variety of potentially massive threats as a result of glacial melting and related climate changes. Millions of South Asians hope this would be the main driver of cooperation in the 21st century. Thank you.
Well, as I said, this is a very serious subject and it has to be taken very seriously. I'm taking advantage of being the coordinator, and I'm also on the presidium, and I have a very strong temptation of elaborating on Hasnan's paper. His paper was very, very big, voluminous paper. And he has given some very, very reasonable, very solid arguments why glaciers are melting. And he talked about warming of, of the whole climate and all that. Some of the basic things which have happened, like India, before it was divided, undivided India, it had more than 87,000 water bodies in the region of the Indian subcontinent. Out of those 87,000 water bodies, they have been reduced by more than 40%. And those who are remaining, the area of the water bodies has also have reduced. There is a very famous lake near Delhi. It's a haven for birds. Bharatpur Sanctuary. No, I'm talking about Bharatpur, not Bhatkanji. Bharatpur became world famous because people from all over the world used to come to watch birds in Bharatpur Sanctuary. Bharatpur Sanctuary is completely dried up, and it is in an area of 300 acres. It is dried up. There is no water in it. But there were many famous other sanctuaries. They have no water. The water in the rivers of India, I'm just talking about rivers. We are all familiar with the Punjab rivers. My friend Anjum was pulling my legs yesterday that India is stopping water to Pakistan, which he himself said is a joke, is not true. But the thing is, Jamuna in Delhi is completely, it is no longer a river. It's a sewerage, it's a sewer drain. You can't even go near it. There's no water in it. The reason, the population has increased in the last 65 years at least 5 times. The consumption of water is so much that Haryana, the neighboring state of Delhi, is very reluctant to release water for Delhi. The water is being taken up completely for irrigation. There used to be 2 crops. Now the farmers, because of the food demand and other things and economic reasons, they are not just 2 but 3 and sometimes 4 crops. So more water. And sometimes people decided that there was more money in sowing rice. So they gave up the cultivation of wheat. And in Punjab, it is every second farmer is growing rice, not wheat. And the reason is, rice fetches more price, more money, but more water has been taken up. Then, the other reason for the glaciers to disappear is the extensive use of generators, air conditioners, and fossil fuel. Delhi, when I was growing up, we used to play a game when we were in school. We used to stand outside our house, 5 or 6 of us, and the competition was to recognize and identify the model of the car and the color. And we had a hard time, but there were only, in Delhi in 1956, there were only 38,000 registered cars in Delhi. Today, the number of cars in Delhi is 4.5 million. And there is, in all the colonies, every family has more than 3 or 4 cars, which is ridiculous. Child has a car to go into the school. Madam needs it for her shopping and for her kitty parties. Husband goes to work, son goes to work. And there are constant fights on parking. And urge and mobilize opinion to do something at our own end. I mean, I know that somebody was mentioning that it's a wishful thinking that we don't have a business model and it is easier said than done. But somewhere we have to make very small beginnings. Thank you. I would now like to invite the members of the presidiums to share their lives and their opinion.
You can call Dr. Shelley.
Sorry?
Dr. Shelley you can call.
Dr. Shelley.
Yeah.
Well, my favorite poet. Would you please come?
Thank you. Chairman, it's a great pleasure to be invited to this August platform in this month of cool April, or rather cold April. One is always happy to speak before the mic if one is a Bengali part of South Asia. As somebody presiding over an international conference at once remembered, he had a great difficulty, or rather set of difficulties. One was to stop the South Asians from talking, the other was to get the Japanese to talk. We have no problem on that respect, but I am grateful to the respected chairman for mentioning that he has liking for the name Shelley. I was indeed named after the fabled poet, a romantic poet, about whom it was said that he has always lived with opposites. As Matthew Arnold, writing on about him, had said, he loved the woman he did not marry and married the woman he did not love. Not I, but he.
He is not the only one.
And also, it was said about Shelley that he was like an ineffectual angel beating his wings of light in the void. An ineffectual angel beating his wings of light in the void. The reason why I mention it is that as I was sitting there listening to this wonderful exposition on SAARC connectivity and on the laments of our very able and competent Secretary General Imtiaz Alam and to the very lauded words of the chairperson, I was thinking whether the Sapma, like Shelley, is beating its wings of light ineffectually in the void. Will that have any impact on the leaders of the SAARC? I believe, as an incorrigible optimist, that it will. Not only because SAPMA and the media commissions which have come up recently represent a very potent force, a force that can work for the betterment of humanity, can and has also worked for its destruction and devastation, can be profitably, gainfully used by the leaders. That refrain has been there in our meeting this morning too, earlier too. And as media persons, I'm sure the leaders of media world, of South Asia and India, would appreciate that one has to make his and her or her voice heard. The baby must cry, otherwise he or she will not be fed. And therefore, what the media can do to promote connectivity and also to save South Asia, and that means the entire world, from the devastations of an environmental degradation, has to be spread far and wide as a word. We are all aware, and the presentation that has been referred to here, State scientist Iqbal Hasnain, and reinforced by our very eloquent chairperson elegantly, this is a real threat. This is not something about which only the island states of the world, Pacific, the Indian Ocean, have to think about, or nations like Bangladesh, or the coastal belt of the Indian Ocean, Bay of Bengal, have to think. Although Bangladesh has been rightly designated as a frontline state in humanity's war against its ancient enemies, poverty, hunger, malnourishment, illiteracy, and superstition. It is also now a frontline state in humanity's new war, the war against environmental degradation. Our search for extraterrestrial intelligence, our search across the galaxies and the universes through the cosmos have not yet yielded positive results as to finding out another habitable planet, habitable that is for human beings. So this is the only planet we have. It's a spaceship on which more than 6 billion people are now passengers. And there are more to come. And we owe it to our future generations to do something so that you do not curse us when we are in the grave or have been reduced to ashes. And South Asia, the responsibility is even greater, because while we are moving forward with our rich history and heritage, not only the richness of history, but the richness and glory of the Orient, especially focusing on South Asia, which was even to the British colonizers, colonial masters, the jewel in the crown. That prosperity, that happiness, we were told about the gross national happiness index that Bhutan is pressing forward. So happiness and prosperity will come together, nothing better than that. But if prosperity means reduced happiness, and if happiness means total poverty, that might not be acceptable in a real life-like situation. So we are thinking of an environmentally safe, a peaceful, harmonious world, an environmentally sustainable, sound development process is necessary. I have just one remark to make about the wonderful presentation by Dr. Khaled, that while market states are in fashion, we have heard yesterday from the very eloquent and brilliant Prime Minister of our host country, Bhutan, that consumerism or the forces of market can also reduce us, reduce our humanity. So how do we strike the balance? I am not only called Shelly, my first name is Mizan al-Rahman, and I was told as a child, we don't speak Arabic in Bangladesh. We too. Mizan means the balance, the scales of balance of Almighty Allah in His Rahman, merciful incarnation, in His merciful manifestation. So probably that Mizan is what we need to seek now in our development efforts, in our work as media persons, in our work as writers, scholars, political leaders. How do we strike the balance between happiness and the prosperity that we need? Because it's all well for the West to pontificate on the virtues of austerity, on the virtues of saving or not using fossil fuel, because they have done it to their heart's content. They have polluted the atmosphere. They have brought the world to the brink of disaster. Now they are advising us, and with the advice they are not also bringing up the resources that are needed to implement those wonderful advice and ideas. So that's where we need to forge our own unity, because if we remain divided, then we will be entertaining, inviting disaster at home. Why? As they say, that if the ocean levels rise as a result of global warming, in about 50 years, Bangladesh, like many others, will lose nearly 20% of its coastal territories. 20 million people will be thrown out of their hearts and homes. Refugees, climate refugees, where will they go? If they can't go at all, they will go to neighboring India. That will then become India's problem, Pakistan's problem, Myanmar's problem, even Bhutan's problem. People in distress, what political and cultural differences that are there. But there is an overarching reality of a South Asia that existed in splendor and glory, where Alexander the Great and many other conquerors came to be conquered themselves. And I know it's not a monolingual session, but I cannot refrain from quoting from poet Rabindranath Tagore, who wrote the national anthems of both India and Bangladesh. He could do so because when he was writing, there was one South Asia, one India as it was, not one India, one Pakistan, one Bangladesh. So you could write that in that before. So he had said that Bharat, that was the common name. Ei Bharater Mahamanaver Sagar Tire, Jagore Tire. In this South Asian grand carnival, grand meeting of humanity, Hemor Chitto Purno Tirthe Jagore. Oh my mind, oh my consciousness, rise here in this holy place of pilgrimage. That's our South Asia. Let our South Asia come back in its own splendid form, and let our Sahmas and media commissions work contribute to that. With that prayer and thanking you all, I end my submission here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mizan Sahib. I stand corrected. I should have called you Mizan. It's a lovely name you have. Even better than Shelley. And I appreciate your comments. While we are at this subject, I will request that I don't want to make a mess of this session like the previous one. We must focus on the subject of climate and environment. I think we will have to do something to be less dependent on cars and fossil fuel. Maybe some people are going to make petrol out of trees and leaves. I don't know how that's going to be successful. But as journalists and as part of SAARC and our research, I think 70, are you still here? 79? Okay. What I suggest that some of our members who are part of research teams and our think tanks and our magazine and our websites and as individual journalists, let's make a conscious effort to write more and more about this threat so that people in general should also be made aware about this danger, and we have got to start doing something to make a contribution. I'm just saying that it is, I hope everybody will make a contribution today, and please come forward and participate in this discussion as much as you can. Kumar, would you like to say something? And please be brief because we have plenty of time, but I would like more and more people to talk about it.
But we should be giving more time to declaration.
Is this session about declaration or is it a session about environment?
The whole declaration is on the environment.
So are we discussing now environment or declaration?
I think we should be going towards declaration.
We are moving towards declaration or we are speeding towards declaration?
Speed up.
Speed up. Sorry?
Speeding towards declaration.
So I accelerate to 100 RPM? Declaration.
I think stage can give us more time, but not by not interjecting at every remark. making his own remarks.
Why don't you come here because I'm exhausted. Please, I invite you, please come here. I'll be quite happy.
Then you don't let the debate go on.
He is a regular presence at such conferences, so don't mind it.
Yeah, aajo.
No, please, for God's sake.
Well, I will be brief because I think most of the issues that need to be discussed under the theme called climate change have been discussed all over the world umpteen times in all the seminars. And apparently somebody said more newsprint is consumed and therefore more trees have been destroyed to discuss this issue than if it was not discussed, perhaps some trees at least were saved. My friend Satish said in the next 20 years or 25 years, Delhi will be completely dry and uninhabitable. I think that is likely to be the fate not only of Delhi but of many places. And yet I feel that more and more intellectuals, more and more scientists, more and more environmentalists and literators and filmmakers and theatre people are engaged in the issue of climate change. But none of these, neither the filmmaker, nor the writer, nor the poet, nor environmentalist or intellectual is actually a policymaker. The policymakers are political class and hand in glove with the industrial class, in turn hand in glove with global corporate industrial class, and I don't think, and I don't see at least, that they are serious about it, except when we realize that those who are serious in the industry and the corporate class about environment are actually trying to utilize the utilize the theme of climate change basically to promote what they call green products and green industry. So I don't consider even simple promotion of green industry and green products amounts to seriousness towards climate change. So unless the political class and the industry and the corporate class actually gets engaged, it won't actually become a serious theme of policy making. It was, I think, James Lovelock, who is actually founder of the theory of Gaia in London. Now he's about close to 90. He said that Earth is an organism, a living organism, and we are killing that organism. This he stated sometime in 1962-64 and warned the people against the dangers of declining fossil fuel and the use of fossil fuel and the increase of car culture and so on. Recently he was interviewed by London Independent and he was asked, what do you think after the Copenhagen conference, what is likely to happen? He says nothing fundamentally is going to change. London will be flooded by about 2035, 2040 and 2/3 of the London will be virtually under the water. So, and he was smiling while giving the interview to the correspondent of the Independent. So the Independent correspondent wondered and said, you are actually giving such a pessimistic scenario for London where we are sitting and you are smiling. You have no hope left for this world, or at least for England, for London. He says, I never said I am completely pessimistic. I said only 2/3 of the London will be flooded, 1/3 of the London will be there. So I am optimistic, 1/3 London will survive. And till that time, when 2/3 of the London city will be flooded, people in this country, that is London, England he was talking about, will not become aware of the climate change because for them it has become an intellectual exercise like doing mathematics than doing actual work to save climate and the world. After that and before that, before Copenhagen and after Copenhagen, we have seen films like Wall-E, we have seen films like Avatar, we have seen even 2012 or Day After Tomorrow film in which New York is flooded. But just about 15-20 years ago, when the apocalyptic images were given, they were more about the nuclear winter. And when Carl Sagan's film came the day after, it was talking about possible nuclear war in 1985. And the nuclear war was supposed to destroy us. Now it is clear that even before nuclear war, perhaps climate change will destroy us unless India and Pakistan think otherwise. Then they can actually overcome the problems of climate change. They can actually save us from the problems of climate change by indulging in the nuclear warfare game. So the point I am trying to drive at is that it is absolutely legitimate and perfect to campaign, and the media has a great responsibility in making people aware. But sitting in Mumbai, traveling all over India and sometimes in the world, I find that in actual policy making, there is very, very little change that takes place. I'll just make one point and close my observations. For instance, the third world countries, the earlier third world, actually third world has become a misnomer. Many of the third world countries, which were defined as third world in the 60s, have become now first world countries. At that time, even all the Gulf countries and Saudi Arabia were part of third world. Now they are all very rich oil countries. So forget the term third world, but many of the developing countries today, who have more than half the population of the world, they engage in places like Copenhagen and elsewhere in what we can call America bashing, which is a usual game. I am no lover of America, but the point is, I think that has also become a kind of a gimmick, in the sense that you can condemn America for consuming 40% of the carbon and not doing anything, and that's legitimate to condemn. But that condemnation actually gives them a kind of a protection cover in which they go back to their respective countries and pollute their respective countries, irrespective of any sensitivity to the issues of climate change. For instance, when they talk about per capita or per country climate contribution of carbon, they don't realize that that per capita does not mean that a landless laborer, a small worker, a student or a middle class person is not contributing the same amount of carbon as much as the rich and the privileged and the influential are giving so much carbon to the. Just now, as Satish said, the cars have gone up from 38,000 to 4.5 million. The same is true in Mumbai. And how many people use cars? Not even 3 to 4%. But all roads are blocked and the air is blocked with carbon. Now, all these people are contributing carbon, but whenever our minister speaks, not only India's, any developing country's minister speaks in conferences like Copenhagen, they will point out to American lifestyle, without bothering about the lifestyle of the rich and the privileged in most of the developing countries, which is even worse lifestyle in terms of carbon contribution and in terms of pollution and in terms of total insensitivity towards the world by the rich and the privileged in the respective so-called poor countries. And I think therefore, it is not as if there is a first world out there in the West. First world is out there right inside the developing country. In Mumbai there are first world, second world and third world. In Bangladesh there is a first world, second world, third world. In Pakistan there is a first world, second world, third world. And what we do is, suddenly when it comes to conferences, we unite as a nation. And as a nation we argue against the first world there without talking about the world, about the first world in our own countries who are contributing most to the carbon and are the most insensitive to the issues of climate change. So we ignore the operation and the exploitation of climate in our own countries by ignoring the first world. And therefore I think time has come now, though we belong to 8 countries in SAARC, time has come now, as Mr. Fuller said, to give up the idea of nation and states. Of course, this can also only be discussed in books and conferences, but the actual idea has come to give up the notion of nation states, because neither the flooding waters of all these rivers which Satish mentioned, the Himalayas or Alps or the Alaska, or none of these places are going to observe the national boundaries, the religious boundaries and the so-called cultural and linguistic boundaries. They are going to flood the world, trespassing all the boundaries. And yet, whenever the people meet in conferences like Copenhagen, they discuss in terms of nation states. So the moment you discuss the issue like climate, issue like earth, we call it Earth Summit, and when we sit in conferences, we divide the earth into various nations and states. I don't think that kind of intellectual exercise is going to help. Time has come, at least somewhere, somebody to say, like Mr. Kuller said and James Loddock said, that we all belong actually to earth, and stop calling names to independent nations and start thinking about who is contributing, how much to carbon and what can be saved. I think media is generating a lot of information, a lot of analysis. I think media is by and large doing its job on making people aware of the climate crisis. But I think making aware people about the climate crisis and making them into action are two completely different things. Sometimes you are simply aware and you become totally pessimistic, as somebody said. So therefore the world is going to be destroyed by the climate change. So he said yes. So again James Robb, like person said, so you are pessimistic. He said, no, I am not pessimistic, I am just realistic. I am just realistic, and realism is so pessimistic, so I can't help. So I think without spreading pessimism, spreading realism with action is what is required, and that action will come only if we start realizing that we ourselves, without blaming the West, are also responsible. And if all the people in the third world, the developing world, start demanding and actually have, perhaps you may not be thinking about it, but in many people, many people in India, certainly in Mumbai and Delhi, I know, are having even better lifestyle, living standard, and even quality of life minus climate than even in Europe and America. They are living in super America, many people in India and many people in the rest of the third world also. So unless we are able to face this actual class war within us, we will not be able to deal with the issue of climate change. If we try to ignore the existence of classes in our society, we will be happy blaming America for doing the worst, and we will end up doing the worst for ourselves and everybody. Thank you.